The moment I saw my husband's face when he learned the truth, I knew I'd created a monster out of the man who once loved me. My name is Alyssa Carter, and this is the story I never thought I'd speak out loud. The story of how I betrayed the only man who ever loved me, and how he repaid me with a kind of justice I never saw coming. I married Jonathan Carter 8 years ago. Stable, quiet, brilliant in ways he never bragged about. He ran a small but successful financial consulting firm in Denver. I was a marketing manager. We met at a networking event and fell together fast, maybe too fast. The early years were warm, safe, predictable. But the truth is, I wanted more excitement, more attention, more everything that Jonathan didn't know how to give because he was always working, always planning for our future. I used to love that. Then I started to resent it. The first crack appeared when I noticed how exhausted he always looked. Late nights, missed dinners. He'd kiss my forehead and say, "Just a few more months. I'm building something big for us." I pretended to appreciate it, but deep down I was lonely. Then he entered my life, Mark Dalton, my new director at the marketing firm. Confident, charismatic, the kind of man who noticed every detail, especially the ones your husband stopped seeing. I should have walked away the moment I realized he liked me, but instead I leaned in, and what began as harmless attention turned into something far darker. I'm not proud of what I did, but the real story isn't my affair. It's how Jonathan discovered it, and how he used the full strength of the law, his intelligence, and his cold composure to dismantle my life piece by piece without ever raising a hand. This isn't a story of love. It's a confession of dark justice. Affairs never start loudly. They creep in quietly, in the soft spaces between responsibility and desire. Mark made it easy. A working lunch that turned into a wine bar. A compliment that turned into a touch that turned into a hotel room. Every step, I told myself it was temporary, that I'd stop, that Jonathan didn't need to know. But secrets age like poison. The first sign Jonathan suspected something was when he asked, "Do you feel distant from me lately?" I lied. I told him work was stressful. He nodded, but his eyes were searching. Jonathan wasn't stupid. He read people for a living. Then came the night it all fell apart. Mark texted me. Room 314. Can't wait. I shouldn't have opened it in the kitchen. I shouldn't have left my phone face up on the counter. I shouldn't have stepped into the laundry room to move clothes. When I came back, Jonathan was holding my phone. His expression was not rage, not heartbreak. It was something colder. He simply handed it back and said, "You'll be home late tonight." Not a question, a statement. He walked out of the kitchen like a man who had just witnessed his own death. I wanted to run after him, to explain, to deny, but I didn't. I told myself he'd cool down. I was wrong. What I didn't know was that Jonathan spent the next 4 weeks gathering evidence. Texts, call logs, hotel records, even the timestamps on Mark's company card for the room he rented. He never confronted me again. He never yelled. He never pleaded. Instead, he watched me like a stranger studying a crime scene. Then one morning, I noticed a manila envelope on the dining table. Inside, a copy of our prenup, the one I'd forgotten existed, and a note in his handwriting. "This is your only warning. Stop seeing him." But I didn't stop. Mark promised me he'd leave his wife. I believed him. Jonathan believed proof. 2 weeks later, he followed me. I didn't know it then, but he recorded everything. From me walking into the hotel to me leaving 3 hours later. The next morning, he placed a USB drive next to my coffee mug and said, "You've made your choice. Now I'm making mine." That was the last calm sentence he spoke to me as my husband. Jonathan didn't break down. I did. I started noticing how quiet the house felt. How he didn't look at me unless absolutely necessary. How the man who once held my face like it was glass now couldn't stand to be near me. My guilt grew into panic. Mark became distant too. Suddenly he needed space. Suddenly he wasn't sure he could leave his wife. Suddenly he was protecting his career. I realized I was nothing but his temporary excitement. And Jonathan had always been my foundation. One night I broke and asked him, "Are you going to leave me?" His response chilled me. "I already have. I'm just finishing the paperwork." Paperwork. I didn't understand. Until his brother, an attorney, served me with divorce documents citing adultery, with full evidentiary backing. He wasn't bluffing. He had everything. A hotel receipts texts. Call logs, timestamps, a witness statement from the hotel desk clerk. But that wasn't the worst part. Jonathan's prenup clause stated, if either spouse commits adultery, they forfeit all claims to marital assets. Which meant I would lose the house, spousal support rights, half of his business stake, every financial protection I thought I had. But Jonathan wasn't done. He exposed Mark's involvement to Mark's wife through a lawyer. Not violently, not publicly, just legally. Mark lost his marriage, his position at the company, and according to the HR report I later heard through co-workers, he nearly lost his entire career. Jonathan didn't humiliate me with screaming. He humiliated me with precision. For weeks, I watched as Jonathan executed a revenge plan built on a legality, intelligence, documentation, timing. He didn't want to hurt me physically. He wanted me to feel what he felt. The slow realization that the life I knew was slipping through my fingers. He changed the passwords to joint accounts, legally allowed during divorce proceedings. He temporarily froze the home equity line to prevent asset withdrawal. He removed me from the company insurance. He coordinated with his lawyer to ensure I couldn't claim financial abuse because every action followed procedure. He played chess. I was still trying to understand the board. The coldest move came during mediation. His attorney slid over a folder labeled Property Allocation, Carter Residence. Inside were photos of every room, except the master bedroom. I looked at Jonathan, confused. That's when he said, "You won't be returning to that room. Or this house." I asked, "Where am I supposed to go?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "Anywhere but here." He'd already filed for exclusive occupancy due to emotional distress caused by spousal misconduct. A judge granted it. Legally, I was required to move out within 10 days. 10 days to pack 8 years of marriage. 10 days to understand the storm I created. 10 days to face the fact that I lost everything without him ever raising his voice. The final blow came during the last mediation meeting. I expected numbers, terms, maybe anger. Instead, Jonathan handed me a single sheet of paper. It was a waiver, allowing me to walk away from the marriage without the adultery clause being invoked. A chance to keep a small settlement, a small piece of dignity. But there was a condition. At the bottom it said, I, Alyssa Carter, acknowledge that Jonathan Carter bears no fault in the dissolution of this marriage, and that my actions alone caused its failure. It was the truth. But seeing it written, seeing him demand it, that was his revenge. Not the money, not the house, not the legal strategy. It was making me confront my betrayal in writing, forever documented. I signed it. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply nodded like a man completing a final task. When it was over, I packed my last box and stood at the front door of the home we built together. Jonathan didn't come out to say goodbye. He didn't need to, because his message was already clear. You ended this. I finished it. As I drove away, I looked at the house through the rearview mirror. The life I destroyed with my own decisions. Jonathan rebuilt himself after me. I had to rebuild myself without him. And this is the part that still keeps me awake at night. I didn't lose him because he stopped loving me. I lost him because he finally loved himself more. That was the day I learned that some men don't need violence for revenge. Some men use truth. Some men use law. Some men use the very silence you forced upon them. Jonathan Carter was one of those men, and that was the last day I ever had power over him. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to this story. Your support means more than you know. Before you go, drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one of them. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Betrayal Nation. Help us reach our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there, and your support truly keeps this channel alive.